Information on the environment of the Great Plains. Student Handout 3.2a, Physical Features. This region stretches west from the Mississippi River Valley to the Rocky Mountains and south from Montana and North Dakota all the way to southern Texas. This vast region is mostly treeless grassland. Long grass grows in the eastern prairies and shorter grass grows in the western prairies. There are some wooded areas along the many river valleys. The whole region is a flat prairie except for the Ozark Mountains, the Black Hills, and the Dakota Badlands. Climate. The winters in the Great Plains region are cold. Often there are blizzards that cover the prairie with deep snow. The summers are hot and can be quite dry. Sometimes there are thunderstorms and tornadoes. Water availability. Rainfall averages about 30 inches a year compared to 100 in the northwest coastal region. There are many streams and rivers including the Mississippi, Bighorn, Missouri, and Arkansas River. Animal life. The prairies are home to many animals, large and small. The biggest animal is the bison, or buffalo, which at one time roamed the prairies in huge herds. Other animals and birds found in the region are pronghorn antelope, mule deer, coyotes, prairie dogs, badgers, prairie chickens, quail, and pheasants. Vegetation. Most of this region is covered in grass, however there are a few wooded areas of cottonwood trees in the river valleys. Native Americans in their environment, the Great Plains. Student Handout 3.2d. Most people today picture the Plains Indians when they think about the Native Americans. They believe all Native Americans ride horses, hunt buffalo, and live in teepees. What many people do not know is that this was not until a few centuries ago that the horse came to the Great Plains and tribes like the Sioux developed their highly nomadic lifestyles. Housing. The Sioux of the Western Plains were nomadic and lived in teepees. The teepee frame was constructed with about 20 tall poles that were tied together at the top and spread out at the bottom to form a large circle. Buffalo hides were sewn together and used to cover the teepee. These were easily dismantled and quickly assembled in any kind of weather. They were cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Other Indians in the region also made grass houses, which were dome-shaped with cedar ribs and grass tied on with buffalo hide thongs. Earth lodges made of cottonwood posts and beams and a coat of wet earth that dried like a plaster shell were the homes of the Eastern Plains people who lived closer to major rivers and often created permanent villages. Clothing. Most of the time, men wore only breechcloths and moccasins made of deer skin or elk skin. In colder weather or for special occasions, they wore leggings with wide fringed flaps, which cowboys later imitated. A shirt made of two skins sewn together with an opening for the head was worn with these leggings. A woman would wear moccasins, short leggings, and a dress made of two skins tied with a wide belt. The dress was often decorated with paint, porcupine quills, and elk teeth, and the side seams and the bottom of the dress were fringed. Food. The huge herds of buffalo or bison that roamed the plains were the main source of food for the native human inhabitants. Sioux ate mostly buffalo and other large game such as pronghorn antelope, elk, moose, and deer. They also gathered Indian ricegrass, arrowroots, buffalo berries, and gooseberries. Other tribes living closer to rivers and permanent settlements ate fish and cultivated squash, corn, beans, and sunflowers. Recreation. The games the Sioux played were often life situations in miniature. One favorite game among boys was called the buffalo hunt game. One boy would walk around with a cactus leaf on the end of a stick while the others tried to hit this buffalo heart with their bows and arrows. If an arrow hit the cactus leaf, the buffalo chased after the hunter and poked him in the buttocks. The game went on until the buffalo got tired. Values. There were ceremonies to honor the buffalo spirits who gave up their bodies and to bring back the buffalo after their winter migration. The horse dance honored the horse. The horse had greatly changed the lifestyle of the Plains Indians. Horses made it possible to follow and hunt buffalo with greater ease. Before the horse, teepees were much smaller and less comfortable because they had to be carried by dogs. The horse dance was also a prayer for rain. The sun dance, held each summer, was a gathering of all the Sioux bands to celebrate the successful return and the hunt of the buffalo. 1.10 Native Americans of the Great Plains. This is the textbook reading. The Great Plains cultural region was a vast area of treeless grasslands. The Great Plains stretched for 2,000 miles from the Rockies to the Mississippi Valley and from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. The eastern part of this region had more water and softer soil than the western part. In the drier west, short, dense grasses provided perfect grazing for millions of buffalo hunters. On the eastern plains, various groups took up farming, going on buffalo hunting trips only a few months each year. On the western plains, Native Americans followed buffalo herds much of the year. In the spring and early summer, small groups lay in ambush where buffalo came to drink. The hunters gripped hardwood bows reinforced with strips of buffalo tendon. Taking aim, each man let loose a wooden arrow tipped with a sharp stone and arrayed with feathers to help it fly straight. In the fall, huge buffalo herds gathered and plains people traveled in larger bands. The men sometimes made a trap for the buffalo by heaping stones into two short walls to form a V passage. The walls forced the buffalo closer together as they approached a cliff. Behind the herd, people set a grass fire or made loud noises to panic the buffalo. The animals stampeded between the walls and over the cliff edge. Below, waiting hunters finished them off with spears or bows and arrows, using the buffalo. Buffalo provided the main food for plains people. Women and children cut up the buffalo with bone knives. Extra meat was dried and kept for winter. Plains Indians used every part of the buffalo. Buffalo hides were turned into shields, waterproof containers, warm robes, and bedding. For clothing and bags, women softened the hides with bone scrapers and rubbed in buffalo brains and fat. Buffalo hair and sinew were twined into bowstrings and ropes. Horns and hooves became spoons and bowls, or were boiled down to make glue. Dried buffalo dung provided fuel for fires. Buffalo provided materials for housing as well. Using tendons as thread, women sewed 8 to 20 buffalo skins together. The skins were then fastened around a tall cone of poles to make a teepee, a Plains word for dwelling. Plains people became even more successful when Spanish explorers introduced horses to the region. With horses, hunters could bring down more buffalo and move faster and more comfortably to new hunting grounds. The caption says, "The Great Plains region is mostly treeless grassland with cold winters and hot summers. Buffalo and other animals grazed freely over a vast territory."